All right, Chris, let's get into Ant a little bit here. I put this. I said this to you before we started recording, but I wrote my notes. I was like, Ant is just consistently putting up big numbers when it doesn't even feel like to me that he's playing great. I didn't feel that, but I knew at the end of the game he kind of took over. Finch said Carl got him there. Ant closed it out. I look at him like 33, 6, and 7. And like, if in my brain was grading it, I would have been like, I don't know, that was like a B- game from Ant. Like it felt like, but he is consistently having an impact in these games that are contributing to winning pretty much regardless of if his shot's going in or not. Like when he is on the floor, this team has completely, the needle is moved to a whole different level when Ant is playing. What have you seen go into Ant's just significant impact on winning this season compared to previous years?
Well, I mean, I think you said it in the stat line. It's not so much the 33; it was the 6 and 7. To me, that's really significant. Even when he was struggling shooting last night, and he got it going towards the end, but he's still grabbing some rebounds. I think 6 is right around the number where they would like him to get. Like maybe around 7 would be great. And then, but it's the assists too, like 7 assists. Like that's what you want to see. I think his playmaking is taking another step this season. I just anecdotally watching him play this year compared to watching him the last 3 years, I am finding myself watching him and like he's hitting guys that he hasn't like hit before, like on plays. Like he's finding guys in the flow of the offense or in spots on the floor that he wasn't doing before. I'm like, he's surprising me a little bit where it's like, ooh, like a year ago, he wouldn't have found that guy in the corner, or he wouldn't have thought to throw that pass to this guy. And we know, of course, he's trying to make a more of an effort to get Rudy involved offensively. That's still a work in progress. So there's still multiple times a game I'm seeing Rudy almost like jumping in the lane and Ant doesn't see him. So that's still a work in progress. But it's all these other things. And defensively, he was on Wiggins last night, and Wiggins did, what would he have, like 6-7 points, something like that? Like
Wiggins having a bad year, man.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing.
But I mean, to your point, still, like but some of it is,
Ant was playing good defense on him, So I think it's all the other things. And then eventually, after a chat with Mike Conley last night, he gets the shot to start falling in the fourth quarter, and they pull away. I think that's the difference between a couple of years ago and now, is he's more consistent with the effort in the other areas of the game, even if the shot's not particularly falling on a given night.
I looked this up stumbled upon this morning. Ant is 4th in the NBA in usage rate, which that's not just shots, that's assists and turnovers, whatever. It's generally like, how often do you have the ball, right?
Right.
It's Luka, Giannis, Trey, then Ant in usage rate in the NBA. And that's something I felt like I haven't felt watching every game. It doesn't, I don't know. I've watched a handful of Atlanta games this year, a couple Dallas games, and it feels so Luka and Trey centric. Obviously, Giannis over the years, we can all picture that. Watching Wolves games does not feel that way to me, that it's as Ant centric as it is those guys.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting because I've always had the curiosity. I've talked with all you guys about this multiple times of like, does Ant ever go into the Harden or the Luka role or whatever that is, where it is they, as James Harden would say, they are a system in and of themselves. And Finch has, I think probably to his credit, has always been really resistant to the idea of overfeeding that idea. And as he would say, finding it in the flow. And he's finding the same usage in the flow. And I think that's when I say, okay, it was 33, 6, and 7, and it didn't feel like that. Or Britt rattled off some net rating numbers on off the floor to me last podcast with with what Ant's doing. And it's hard to point to exactly what it is. I think what it is the ball is in Ant's hands a ton, and good things are happening when the ball is in Ant's hands. The defense is reacting differently. It's the extra guy coming in, so he's got to kick to Jaden or Nikhil that are wide open. Like he is turning into a system in and of himself, but that's not the system, and then that might be the perfect balance. So I don't know. Those usage rate numbers stood out.
But I think to your point, it's like, okay, they want to play a certain style of play, ball movement, making the right play. Ultimately, that is what is going to free him. Like that is what this is. That's what this is all about. Is like, if we have ball movement, the defense just can't focus on one particular player. So therefore, when we're in the flow of the offense, Ant will have opportunities to create and shoot and play make out of that, because the defense will constantly be shifting, moving, and they can't just load up on Ant. So it kind of works hand in hand in that way, where it's like, obviously they want to get him going and he's the focal point of what they do offensively, but they can't always like operate in that form, because that's just not how their offense is built to move.
They need a point guard sometimes.
They need a point guard, right? They need Mike Conley out there to run the show and get things organized and get things moving. So that's the difference. It's like, it's not like Ant is always just taking every possession. He's dribbling 30 feet from the basket, calling for a screen and roll, and that's how things get initiated. That's just not how they operate, as opposed to, like, say, Dallas, for instance,
or Atlanta, or Milwaukee.
Atlanta. Right, exactly.
It's not as scripted.
It's not as scripted in that way. And yeah, I literally was just looking up the on-off numbers, that Britt was telling you about, and it's the offensive numbers are pretty stark.
Dude.
It's like, what is it here? 92.5 offensive rating when he's off the floor.
What?
Yeah, 116.6 when he's on the floor. So a difference of almost 20 when he's on the floor versus off it. Like biggest difference on the team, obviously. That's crazy. So
it is. So, and you were asking Ant and Mike about this last night after the game. I think what is allowing Ant to have more usage is that the point guard, Mike, this year versus D'Lo last year, is just significantly lower usage, right?
Yeah.
But situationally, sometimes, as happened last night in the fourth quarter, Finch is like, all right, Mike, like, stop just being a catch and shoot guy, spot up, on the side there, and be the initiator of the offense. Why don't you describe what kind of happened there in the fourth quarter between Ant and Conley?
So I know we saw, like, maybe with about 6 minutes left or so, the Wolves had three straight possessions where it was Ant ISO ball 3, and all 3 of them missed. And so Conley comes back in the game, and, like, right away you notice, like, Conley takes the ball and he scores on 2 straight possessions, gets good shots, and the Wolves get 2 straight buckets. And to me, that right there kind of sums up like their late game offense right now, where it's like they still tend, and Ant still tends to want to go into, like, ISO ball mode, and I'm going to get to a step back 3, which we know is not productive for them. And now Mike,
or only situationally, it's like it's a home run or a strike.
Once in a while it works, right? But most of the time that's not going to be the way they should play. So Mike comes out there, and so I just kind of use it as an opportunity to start asking them, like, this to me is like the difference in your late game execution from a year ago. Is like Mike Conley comes on the floor, and all of a sudden 2 buckets happen. They stop a potential run. They're still up double digits. And so I asked Ant about that, and he basically said that Mike's told him to stop shooting threes, get to the basket, get to the foul line. The refs were calling some things for him last night, so get to the foul line and just get inside the 3-point line. And then we saw Ant got to and then later on in the quarter, 4 straight Wolves possessions, 2 free throws for Ant, a layup, and 2 mid-range jumpers that connect. 8 straight points from, like, the 3-minute to the 2-minute mark or whatever it was. and that iced the game as well. So like those two working in tandem, Mike with the little advice, some vet wisdom, comes in and has a big impact on how the Wolves execute late in that game, which is probably something that doesn't happen a season ago.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah.